In Afghanistan, nationalists tried to use the methods of guerrilla war to resist the same communist ideals that had been fought for in Vietnam and Cuba. A remote and mountainous country, Afghanistan was wedged between Pakistan, Iran, and the Soviet Union. Its 15 million people cherished fierce tribal loyalties. A deeply Islamic nation, Afghan society was almost feudal. In 1978, communists seized power in the capital Kabul and tried to impose a radical program that would turn a traditional society upside down. Many Afghans found the changes an offense to Islam, and after an uprising in the countryside, the Soviet Union sent in its own army. Because of the Cold War, they felt they couldn't let Afghan socialism fail. Soon 100,000 Soviet troops were deployed. Like the Americans in Vietnam, they underestimated the enemy they faced. Afghan guerrillas were fighting not just to expel the Soviets, but to establish an Islamic fundamentalist state. They called themselves soldiers of God, mujahadeen, and believed they went to paradise if they died fighting the infidel. In the Panjshir Valley, one local commander knew the writings of Mao and Che. While he differed with their politics, their ideas of peasant power rang true.
Without mobilizing the people, it was impossible to fight against Afghan communists and against the Russians. We were, as they say, like fish in water, because when the people rally, the enemy doesn't have a chance. The communists were unbelievers and the Russians were invaders. Islam and the independence of Afghanistan were our main rallying cries.
The main Soviet base and the government were in Kabul. On the surface, they were in control, but it was hard to know who was really on whose side. The mujahadeen were infiltrating the city. Despite Islam's teaching on the role of women in the home, many women were used by the mujahadeen in the Holy War. Mada Shawal's 2 sons had been killed by the communists. She agreed to smuggle weapons across the city.
Hidden under my clothes, tied to my body, I carried 2 Kalashnikovs to my rendezvous. I knew these guns were to be used against my fellow Afghans, but they were communists and they'd murdered my son. I was nervous because life is sweet and carrying guns in that way was terribly dangerous.
Mada Shawal was later arrested when government guards at a checkpoint found her carrying mujahideen orders. She was imprisoned and tortured. Russian bombers and fighters brought massive firepower to bear, just as the Americans had in Vietnam. They destroyed villages and water wells to deprive the mujahideen of any shelter. It was a scorched earth policy. Civilians were forced to leave the valleys and hide in the mountains, or join the trail of refugees out of the country. The journey across the mountains to the Pakistan or Iran frontier could take weeks.
I came from Kabul last Wednesday because there was a lot of life is dangerous in Afghanistan. I have to escape from Afghanistan, our lovely country, to go to the Pakistan to join with our brother and Muslim brother and get help from the Pakistan.